Hey everyone, Data here, and welcome to the 2025 Stanley Cup Final simulation on NHL 25 between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. For today's simulation, injuries will be turned off and rosters will reflect the real-world lineup for how the Oilers and the Panthers are looking according to Daily Faceoff, incorporating injuries and things like Zach Hyman being out for the postseason, but Matthias Ekholm being back for Edmonton. And, the simulation doesn't usually reflect too much of reality. Over the last couple of years, the 2023 simulation between Florida and Vegas had Florida winning, and then Vegas won in the real world. Last year between Edmonton and Florida, Edmonton won, and then in the real world, Florida won in 7. And now this year, when we did the postseason simulation, it had Carolina versus St. Louis in the Stanley Cup Final, with Florida losing in round 2 and Edmonton losing in the Western Conference Final. But here they now are in the real world, the Oilers and the Panthers in a Stanley Cup Final rematch. As I said, the lines are reflecting what we see on Daily Faceoff, so things like Corey Perry on the first line for Edmonton. I went ahead and set these lines beforehand for the forwards, the defense, the power play, and the penalty kill. But of course, using EA's rosters, some of the overalls will be a little odd. Corey Perry at an 80, Jake Wallman at an 87. Stuart Skinner, is he playing better than an 84? Absolutely. But over the course of the season, 84, maybe you could say it makes sense. Then in Florida, you have some higher overalls, Tkachuk 93, Barkov 95. So without further ado, let's get this simulation going. The game usually has a lot of love for the Oilers, but with Hyman out, I wonder if that changes things. And before we get started, leave a like on the video as well as your prediction down in the comments below for how the real-world Stanley Cup Final will pan out, as well as the NHL 25 simulation that we're about to witness right now. Also subscribe so that you can follow along with all of our franchise mode series here on the channel, our career simulations, coverage of the real-world NHL, and much, much more. We're closing in on 9,000 subscribers, and we'd love to have you join the team that much stronger with you as a part of it. Let's get started for Game 1 of the 2025 Stanley Cup Final here in Florida. First period for Game 1, and the Oilers are up 2-1 after 20. Victor Arvidsson opens up the scoring on the power play, and then Corey Perry looking for that Stanley Cup in his 6th Stanley Cup Final. Up on that first line makes it 2-0 before Brad Marchand cuts the lead to 1, and the shots are 12-9 Edmonton after 20. I'm sorry, what am I saying? We're in Edmonton here for Game 1. Oilers hosting Game 1 here above the border. Matthias Janmark with a shorthanded goal early in the second period, but then a power play goal from Barkov just 7 seconds later to get back to within 1. Let's sim through the second period, and it ends 3-2. Shots now tied at 23 after a couple of special teams goals here, and the Oilers lead by 1 here on home ice, moving into the third and final period. Gadjevich ties it early in the third, though, and now it's going to be a final 15-minute sprint to the finish. Shots tied at 27, fourth line power coming through for Florida here on the road. Final 10 minutes with this game tied at 3 in the Stanley Cup Final rematch, and it's Leon Draisaitl putting the Oilers ahead. Will that be enough for the victory? No! Anton Lundell ties it with 3:31 to go. 30 seconds left, and we're off to overtime, with shots ending 34-33 in Florida's favor after 60 minutes. It's a 4-4 game after Anton Lundell ties it in the final 3.5 minutes, and we are off to overtime here in Game 1, where it ends early as Adam Henrique is the hero. 46 seconds in, and the Oilers take Game 1 by a score of 5-4, hungry for the Stanley Cup, hoping to bring it back to Canada for the first time since 1993. 5-4 Edmonton the final. Adam Henrique, a goal and 3 assists down on that fourth line. Wow, of course, some special teams involved there, but still 4 points from Adam Henrique, a goal and an assist from Brad Marchand as the second star, and Corey Perry with a goal and an assist as well for the third star. All right, so it's a 1-0 Oilers series after opening things up in Edmonton. Let's go straight into Game 2 now. Will the Panthers have an answer before we head over to Sunrise for Games 3 and 4? First period, the Panthers come out early, and they come out with a lot of firepower. Matthew Tkachuk scores 32 seconds in, Aaron Ekblad a few minutes after that, and then in the final 5 minutes, a power play goal from Anton Lundell, as it was a penalty to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, a major for checking from behind. Ouch, that gave the Panthers that power play, and they're now up 3-0 after the first period. Second period, 3-0 it remains. Oilers will be on a power play to start the third period. Shots 25-22 for the Panthers after 40, and we are now in a 3-0 scoreline, seeing a 3-0 scoreline here in the third period. Power play Panthers to start the period. Corey Perry scores as that power play for the Panthers expires, not shorthanded, but just barely. into the even strength margin there. 3-1 Panthers with a 2-goal lead into the final 5 minutes now. Over 40 shots on net by the end of this one for the Panthers, I would think. No, actually, the Oilers hold the Panthers down in the final few minutes. They don't get any shots in the final 3 or 4 minutes there. But the 3 goals in the first period were too much for the Oilers to overcome. Shots end 40-31. Bobrovsky makes 30 saves to be named the game's first star. Ekblad with a goal, Tkachuk with a goal, and the Panthers tied this series up with a 3-1 victory in Game 2 to now make things a best of 5 headed back to Sunrise. Game 3 now with Florida on home ice. Let's see if that makes any difference for the Panthers. And after the first period, it's 3-1 Panthers as they once again score 3 first period goals. The Oilers, however, do get one back. Jones opens it up. Draisaitl ties it. But then less than 30 seconds later, Verhaeghe scores to make it 2-1, and then a second for him less than 5 minutes later to make it 3-1. So 2 for Verhaeghe and 17 shots for the Cats through 20. Second period now with 4-2, goal apiece. Matthew Tkachuk on the power play puts the Panthers up 4-1. Then Draisaitl with his second, making it a 4-2 game. Draisaitl with 2 goals, keeping the Oilers afloat, being outshot 35-19 headed into the third and final period. After the Oilers won Game 1, they're now 15 minutes away from losing Games 2 and 3. Power play Oilers killed off by the Panthers. We're going to see what the special teams percentages are like at the end of this series as well. Final 6 minutes now. The Oilers need something soon. Another 40-plus shot night from the Panthers, and that'll just be too much for the Oilers to handle as they win Game 3 by a score of 4-2 on home ice, outshooting Edmonton 45-31. Matthew Tkachuk, first star of this one, getting a goal and 3 assists, a 4-point night for him, a la Adam Henrique. Carter Verhaeghe with 2 goals from that first period, and the lone 2 goals from the Oilers going to Leon Draisaitl. So just like that, after being up 1-0, the Oilers are now down 2-1, as the Panthers have a great opportunity to go up 3-1 with another win at home here, or the Oilers could tie it and take a best of 3 headed back to Edmonton. That is exactly what they're going to be pushing for. They don't want to lose 3 in a row. Losing back-to-back is hard enough, but hard enough to come back from, I should say. But losing 3 in a row would be very, very difficult. Game 4 here in Florida. First period, 3-1 Panthers. A third consecutive 3-goal first period from the Cats. Barkov on the power play. Luostarinen makes it 2-0 within the first 5 minutes. Corey Perry seems to be one of the only people who can score a goal here for Edmonton. Nothing from Connor McDavid still. And then Seth Jones. All these 4 goals within the first 8.5 minutes. 3-1 Panthers after 20 shots, 15-11 for Florida. Second period, 4-2 goal apiece, just like last game. Evan Rodriguez makes it 4-1, and then there he is. He answers the call. Connor McDavid, the captain, gives Edmonton some life. Shots are 26-21 after 40, and the Panthers lead by 2, 20 minutes away from going up 3-1 in the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton power play lost to a Panthers power play, which is killed off. 2-goal game it remains, and Matthew Tkachuk may have just put it to bed. Hold on, Connor McDavid scores his second, back to a 2-goal game with 10 minutes to go. Power play Florida, it's an extended opportunity, and Brad Marchand scores in the power play. I don't know if it's been the power play has been so good or the penalty kill for the Oilers has been so bad, but more power play goals and a 6-3 victory for the Cats, outshooting Edmonton 44-27, a third consecutive 40-plus shot night. And the Panthers now have a 3-1 series lead. McDavid, 2 goals and an assist. Perry, a goal and an assist. Marchand, a goal and 2 assists for first, second, and third stars, respectively. Wow. So after winning Game 1, the Oilers lose 3 games in a row, but they've been down before in the Stanley Cup Final, just like last year. They came back to push for 7. Can they do that again now in 2025? They need to win 3 in a row, and their journey starts now. Losing a 4th game in a row means coming short of the Stanley Cup once again, and they cannot allow that to happen. On home ice here in Edmonton, 3-1 Panthers lead. First period, and it's 2-0 Florida after 20 already. Reinhart and Rodriguez outshooting the Oilers 13-7, and it's 2-0 Florida. Second period, 3-1 goal apiece. Evan Bouchard with a power play goal. Bushbaum makes it 2-1, but then Greer down on the 4th line restores the 2-goal cushion. Shots are 25-18 for Florida after 40, and they are 20 minutes away from back-to-back Stanley Cups. Third period, up by 2. Edmonton power play, huge chance here in front of the home fans. Extended opportunity, and there's Brett Kulak scoring as the power play expires. No, but Brad Marchand restores the 2-goal lead. Let me pause this for a second. Shots are tied at 30 with 4.5 minutes to go. Huge goal from Brett Kulak after the Oilers failed to score in that big power play opportunity. Mikkola had a double minor for high sticking. That was at 15:33, so until 11:33. Okay, then about 20 seconds after that, Kulak scores. All right. 4.5 minutes to go. We're going to slow it down here. We'll go times 4. 4-2 Panthers. Did Brad Marchand just put this one to bed? 3 minutes to go. Final 2 minutes. And with a minute left, we'll hop in. With 1:07 to go, the shots are tied at 32, but the Oilers need something quickly, down by 2. Will there be a miracle for them? The game has it on Florida's home ice, but of course, we know that this Game 5 would be Edmonton having home ice advantage. Empty net for the Oilers now. Final minute, McDavid trying to do something in there. The AI is so hard to watch. Board pin in the corner, Forsling kicks it out to the blue line. Recovered. McDavid with space. Big save, Bobrovsky. Ekblad in the corner, being double-teamed. Gets it out to Reinhart. Outlet to Forsling, and now out to Rodriguez as well, with a chance to put it to bed. The one time, what's he doing? And it's going to be a Panthers power play. Wow. So instead of taking the empty net, he tried to pass it across through 3 sets of legs for a one-timer. That didn't work out. And, okay, I don't know what the penalty is for. But Draisaitl gets 2 for slashing, which will now make things even more difficult for the Oilers with 34.3 seconds to go. Lundell loses that face-off to Henrique. Kulak out to Bouchard. Will the Oilers pull the goalie quickly? We'll see Janmark outlet to Henrique. Goalie being pulled, yes, just to restore 5-on-5 play. Henrique pushed off the puck. Verhaeghe across to Jones. Now here's Lundell. The problem with the game is that there's no urgency in stopping the empty net shot. There's a lucky block, but they never stop the shot or try to attack the player who has the puck. They back up and allow the shot to happen as if there's a goalie in there. Henrique throws it all the way back down the ice to his own end. There you go. That's why we can't watch the AI. But with the seconds ticking away, ladies and gentlemen, the Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, beating the Oilers in a 5-game series in the 2025 final. The handshake line, of course, which would be in Edmonton, so at least I put the jerseys right. But the Oilers faithful would be devastated here. Anton Lundell wins the Conn Smythe Trophy. Of course, it doesn't involve the points of the entire postseason, but just this Stanley Cup Final. He had 7 points in 5 games. So there you go, Anton Lundell, although I don't think he's going to be getting it in the real world for the Panthers to win. And now the Stanley Cup being brought out here in Edmonton. Devastating for the Oilers fans to have to see this in back-to-back years, especially after winning Game 1, the gentleman's sweep, with the Panthers winning games 2, 3, 4, and 5. Barkov coming over, shaking hands with big Gary Bettman, looking young, and raising the cup over his head in Edmonton for the second time in as many years. The game passing it next to Matthew Tkachuk, leaving Calgary and now a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Matthew Tkachuk raising the cup here in Edmonton. That would be actually brutal for Oilers fans who, for the most part, I would think, still don't have the most love for Matthew Tkachuk. Brad Marchand getting it next, leaving the Bruins and coming to Florida to chase that cup and doing exactly that. And finally passing it over to Sergei Bobrovsky. There were graphics that I saw from TSN in the first round. Is Bobrovsky the 3rd best goalie in this series? Well, he took down the Leafs and did a lot more, all the way to now being a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. Congrats, Bob. The Panthers gathering around Lord Stanley for a second time. Go ahead and snap that picture. Go ahead and take a screenshot as well. It'll last a lifetime. And there they are next to the 2023-24 Panthers, the 24-25 Florida Panthers right there. From Barkov down to Verhaeghe, back-to-back Cup champs. So the final comes to an end, and the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. The good news for Oilers fans is that, like I said at the beginning of this video, the last 2 Cup Final sims have been the opposite of what happened in the real world. So now the Panthers won in 5, I guess that means the Oilers win in 6, right? But let's at least look at the numbers very quickly. In the Stanley Cup Final, the Panthers scoring 4.2 goals per game, and the Oilers at 2.6. Goals allowed is just the inverse of that. Power play at 35.7% for the Panthers, and just 15.4% for the Oilers. Still good for the Oilers, but 35.7% for Florida was really hard to overcome. Penalty kill at 84.6% for Florida, and just 64.3% for Edmonton. Now looking at the points between the two teams, we'll start with the Oilers. And we see that Draisaitl and Perry both went point per game, 5 and 5 from those two in the top 6. McDavid with 4, Henrique with 4, all from game 1 though. Games 2, 3, 4, and 5, he had 0 points. Nuge with 3 assists. Bouchard, 2 points, -6. Oh boy. Kulak, Nurse, Kane, Klingberg, all with 2 points. Arvidsson, 1 goal, -3. Janmark, a goal. Wallman, an assist. Kapanen, same thing. Ekholm, 0 points, -5. Ouch. Jeff Skinner, no points, -3. Same for Frederick, same for Podkolzin. And then the game just repeats itself again and again and again, because that's always been broken for the last, I think, 2-3 years now. And Stuart Skinner goes 1-4 with an .892 save percentage and 4.23 goals against average. Meanwhile, for the Panthers, we see 4 players with 7 points in 5 games. Tkachuk, Marchand, Lundell, and Reinhardt, all with 7 and 5. Barkov, point per game, so 5 point per game plus players. Verhaeghe, Luostarinen, both with 4. Jones, Rodriguez, Bennett, all with 3. Ekblad and Greer with 2. Gadjevich, Schmidt, Mikkola, Nosek with 1 point each. Forsling, no points, but a +7. Kulikov, a -1. And then the game repeats itself a few more times. And Sergei Bobrovsky goes 4-0-1 with a .916 save percentage and 2.59 goals against average to bring the 2025 Stanley Cup Final to a conclusion. Do I think this is even close to what will happen in the real world? Probably not, but get your predictions down here in the comments below. What parts, not the simulation, what parts of this simulation do you think might be able to come true? I could see like Carter Verhaeghe blowing up and having 7 points and going point per game plus in the series, something like that. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, so leave it in the comments down below. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already for all of our series here on the channel, franchise modes, career simulations, and much more that we'd love to have you be a part of. So thanks again for watching. Enjoy the Stanley Cup Final, and I look forward to seeing you once again in the next one.